You're listening to TIP.
On today's show, I sit down with Lakinya Francis to learn more about the vending machine business and how this can be scaled to generate passive income, just like real estate, for an investor with little capital. Lakinya is the founder of iKrave Vending, which helps potential business owners achieve success in the vending machine space. Before I prepared for this conversation with Lakinya, I didn't know anything about the vending machine business. But as I started to learn more through my research and as Lakinya and I started to talk more, I couldn't help but notice how many similarities there are between the vending machine business and real estate. You'll hear me mention that a few times throughout the show. If you've been interested in real estate but don't quite have enough money yet, the vending machine business might be an option for you. Let's learn more about the business in this week's episode with Lakinya Francis.
You're listening to Real Estate Investing by the Investors Podcast Network, where your host, Robert Leonard, interviews successful investors from various real estate investing niches to help educate you on your real estate investing journey.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Real Estate 101 podcast. As always, I'm your host, Robert Leonard, and today we're going to be talking about an interesting possible spin on real estate with Lakinya Francis. Welcome to the show, Lakinya.
It's good to be here. Thanks so much for having me. I'm actually pretty excited to talk about this unique business with you today.
I'm looking forward to our conversation because it's an interesting business model that I hadn't really given much thought before, and I certainly didn't think it was still viable in today's tech-driven world. Before we get into that conversation, tell us a bit about yourself and who you are.
As you mentioned, I'm Lakinya Francis. I'm actually from Miami, Florida. And what I initially do right now is I help individuals that are looking to get into the vending machine business get started. And sometimes it seems like, oh, it's just a machine and you just go put it out there. But a lot of people don't know like what to do from start A, point A to Z, as far as buying a machine, what type of vending to get into, do I need business license, do I need permits, how to obtain a location. It's so many small little factors, and that's kind of like what I do. But what got me to this point is pretty funny. Working a 9 to 5 like most people, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I need to find something that I can do, a little side hustle, bringing in a little extra income, something that won't really take me away from my job, right? But I can do it at the same time. It won't cost me an arm and a leg to get started. So I just started researching all sorts of things. And surprisingly, I came across vending because at work, I'm like, I see this guy coming in here all the time restocking this vending machine. And it's not even a brand new one. And people are like killing it. So I'm like, hold on, that might be something. So I started researching vending, watching YouTube videos and whatever I can find out there, articles and whatever. And I just did that for months. And then one day I just kind of got up and bought some machines. I had been saving, so I kind of had an idea of what I needed, but that's literally how that went. And from there, I will be honest, I made a lot of mistakes, and a lot of things that I've learned along the way. And that's what really brought me to the point that I am today. And it's pretty interesting because as I continue this path of helping others, it's amazing the different types of vending machine businesses that you can actually get into. That's a lot more interesting than packing the snacks. But yeah, so that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Are you doing the vending machine business and you're coaching full time now?
No, actually, so I do have some machines. I have about 5 machines, but I got somebody taking care of those for me because I'm too busy coaching now. And I still do have my 9 to 5, which now I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm so busy, at one point I'm going to have to make a decision. I've been trying to work around it. And that's what I really like about vending, though. It allows you to kind of do the both. You can work and you can do this as a side hustle because you can essentially set up your own schedule and really make it work for you. And if you want to kind of keep it to a minimum, just get a couple machines and then you'll be fine. But if you want to scale it up, if you're looking to make this a full-time thing, you can too. So it's really flexible. So yeah, I do that. I have my machines, but I have a buddy of mine that's helping me manage them. And I'm really going hard with the coaching.
We'll get into the details of the business, but give us a high level overview. When we talk about a vending machine business, what does that mean? Are we flipping vending machines like you would a property for a profit? Are we wholesaling the goods on the inside to other vending machine providers? Or are you owning and operating vending machines themselves that actually sell the products?
That's pretty interesting that you say that because, vending machines actually have a part of it that's kind of set up like real estate in a way. Essentially, it starts off as buying supplies wholesale and I'm selling them inside of the machine for a profit. But there's different things that you can do within vending too, such as buy the machines. Maybe you'll paint them, or you don't have to do anything to them and just, buy them and resell them. That is really big and you can make a lot of money off of them too, especially here in Miami. Let's say like a used machine, you get a snack machine, you can $400, $500. You can easily get it and resell it for $800. So that's one thing that people do. They buy and flip machines. Another thing that you can do is if you're a handy person, repair and move them. You can charge someone like $150 just to move the machine from point A to B because maybe you'll have a truck and a lift. And again, if you're pretty handy, you can also do repairs where you can charge up to like $100 an hour to fix a machine. And then something that's really interesting and it's really important to the business, regardless of which aspect you're going at it, is locating. So that's another big time business within vending, locating services. So someone who is good with talking with individuals or good at sales, they might get into the locating. So that's actually finding locations for other people. Most people don't like talking to others. So a lot of people will sub that part of the job out. And that's the most important part of the job. So you have some people that are charging like $800 just to find your location. And it may seem like, it is actually difficult, but for some people, it's not. Some people have a gift for gab and they're good with talking. So yeah, vending machine, there's a lot more than just snacks and chips.
You and I were actually just talking before we hit the record button on the podcast about real estate. And, I'm very thankful. My business partner, Ryan, we have very different skill sets. He's that type of person that has, the gift for gab. He's a sales guy. He loves to talk. And that's what he brings to our team. I mean, he brings a ton of value other than just that, but that's one of the big pieces of value that he brings. And people listening might think that's funny because I host a podcast and I talk a lot, but I'm an introvert by design. I think, I'm a numbers guy. That's what I'm good at, the numbers. He's good at the sales. So I technically sub out that part of my real estate business to him and he handles that for me.
And that's perfect because it goes hand in hand. You guys complement each other.
Yeah. If I got into the vending business, I probably would sub out that part of the business as well.
A lot of people do, honestly. A lot of people are not really, big on calling and talking to people. So they'll just, hey, I'll just pay extra to have someone else do it. So, a lot of people can really capitalize off of that, if they're not shy and they like to talk to people and stuff. So, and again, that's another part of it. But what I do mainly is help people find a product that they want to sell and put it in the machine, at a wholesale price. They buy it at a wholesale and sell it for a profit.
Let's get into that. Let's start from the beginning. If someone wants to get into this business, where do they start? What is the first thing they do? Do they look to buy their first machine or do they start somewhere else?
So what I would say for someone who is looking to get into the vending machine business, the first thing you need to do is figure out what type of vending you would like to do. So what I mean by that is, are you looking to just get into something small and traditional snacks and drinks? Are you looking to put specific products inside of the machine, such as laundry detergent, laundry supplies? You can even, something that is really popular right now, and I do more consulting with this than anything, beauty supply machines. Beauty supply, I'm actually working with someone right now that she's in Michigan, CBD machine. So you can do pretty much anything. So that's really the first step. What are you looking to do? So once you find out the type of vending that you want to do, that'll kind of lead you into just kind of shopping the market for what type of machine you're going to need.
That was exactly going to be my next question is, how do we find the specific machine? Because I'm assuming if a machine is going to disperse Reese's peanut butter cups, that's probably not going to be the same type of machine that we need to disperse makeup or CBD or whatever. So how do we find, or how do we know what machine we need for our product?
And that's what I help people with. So once you figure out what it is that you want, technology is so amazing right now. There's companies And I've actually partnered with a supply company and they customize machines, literally customize them. So typically what happens if you want to sell something outside of the ordinary packaging and product, like a snack or something, what they would have to do is customize the vending machine for you and, make your product fit the core. So if you're selling something like, let's say, different types of beauty supplies, those can come in different shapes, right? So what you'll do is kind of give them a sample. You'll send it to them and they can wrap your machine and customize it with your brand or logo. And they will customize the coils specifically for the items that you want to dispense. So that's why I always tell people, you got to know what you want to do first so we can know what type of machine you're going to get. Are you just going to need a regular snack machine? Are you going to need a drink machine? Are you going to need a specialty machine? They're going to have to configure it for you. And something like that, that's a little bit more of a higher investment because, of course, it's specialty. Whereas a snack machine, you can go, on a marketplace and just buy one. So yeah, that's the first step, knowing the type of vending that you want to do. And then that'll lead you into kind of figuring out what type of machine you're going to be needing to purchase.
Give us a range on the price that we're looking at for these types of machines, and give us maybe on the low end, your typical standard snack machine that, most people are used to seeing, but then go maybe give us a price on something maybe more custom that might be a little bit more of a bigger investment.
Let's say a traditional snack machine, like, hey, I just want to get into it, make a few extra bucks every month, or not bucks, a couple of $100, but want to make a little side hustle with just a standard snack machine. They do vary from state to state. For example, you can get a used snack machine here in Miami for about $500 to $600. Whereas if you go and look somewhere like maybe in New York or something, that same snack machine might cost you about $1,000. Not sure why. I guess it's just the market. And that's on the low end. Now, let's say that you want to get something totally customized. For example, the person that I'm working with, this is a perfect example with the CBD machine. That final amount, I was like, wow, that's expensive. But, it's completely customized. It has like the elevator doors for the product. It's not just dropping it. It comes with everything that that a machine can come with, even age verification, IDH verification system where they got to show their ID in order to purchase, the CBD products from the machine. But that machine checked out at about 11 grand. That's with taxes and, warranty and delivery and literally everything, display screen, so that the user can not just say, okay, I want to buy this topical. They get to slide across the machine and they get to see the different products and the images like on a computer screen. So it's a lot of technology going on there. It's very interactive. And of course, that's why it costs more. So when you're talking about something like that, it's about 11 grand. When you're talking about a beauty supply machine, that'll cost you about $6,000 walking out the door, brand new. And, so that kind of gives you an idea of, it can go from very normal to like an extreme of $11,000. So it's really good to know what you want to do to kind of know what type of machine you're going to need and how much of an investment you're going to, need to come up with.
For a fully custom machine, $11,000 really doesn't seem all that bad to me. I mean, it's a lot of money, but I kind of expected it to be more, to be completely honest with you. Now, depends on what you're going to get for a return. If you're only going to make $100 a month, that's probably not a great thing to spend $11,000 on. If you're going to make $1,000 a month, that might be a little bit more attractive. Yeah. So it's not even just the price itself. It's, what is the return?
What is the return? Exactly. And we'll talk about those numbers a little bit more when we get there. But yeah, absolutely right. For it to be customized, it really isn't, because you'll definitely make your investment back quickly. And you got to think about it too, the type of product that you're going to be selling inside of the machine. Okay, for a snack and drink, I'm not going to pay $11,000 for a machine, but hey, I'm selling CBD products, or I'm selling beauty supply products, or even laundry products, or I'm putting something a little bit more, I'm putting electronics in the machine. I mean, you can really go from, they even have t-shirt vending machines. You can do whatever you want. I have a lady that she sells flavored pickles. And when she contacted me, I was like, wow, I never thought of that. And her clientele is like crazy. And the way she does business now is people put in orders. People can pick up their orders, and they also mail them out to people that order. And she's like, sometimes I just don't have the time. And, or I'm not available and people still want to purchase. I'm looking to put this inside of a machine. So you literally can turn something that you're already doing, a hobby or a job currently, and kind of twist it and make it go with a vending machine. It's possible.
We talked about how a lot of people sub out finding locations, but if we're going to do this ourselves, how do we know if we'll be able to get a machine put in a location that we don't own? Is this something that we should figure out before we actually buy a machine?
So yes. So the reason why I said to kind of look at the machine first, and that's just so that while you're getting your plan together, you kind of know what the initial investment is going to be. Okay, I know my numbers for my machine, not necessarily that I'm going to buy it just yet. But my suggestion is actually to get a location first. And once you're secure in that location, then you go ahead and purchase your machine or order it and have it shipped directly to that location. So that's actually going to be the bulk of the, starting up, is finding your location. Now, if you're going to do that on your own, you definitely have to have a plan, because you can't go into a business and not have yourself together. So first, you need to kind of scout, okay, what type of business would I potentially want to put my machine in? So if it's a snack and drink machine, I'm looking for somewhere that is high foot traffic, somewhere where there's a lot of people. For example, maybe a school or a warehouse or a office building, anywhere there are a lot of people coming in and out of that location. Once you do that and you determine that that location is sufficient, and the next plan is to find the right person to talk to. Now, depending on how big the business is, you might get to talk to the owner or maybe somebody that's in charge. But whoever you're getting ready to talk to, you want to kind of come with them with a pitch, not just, off the top of your head. And I typically provide proposals to individuals to kind of take and look professional. Like, hey, I'm Lakinya from iKrave Vending, and I noticed that you don't have any vending machines in here. And I was wondering if you'd be interested in placing a machine in here for free. You just kind of talk about what you have to offer in your machine, and you have your proposal. And honestly, that's really what it is. That's really what it is. And that's if you're doing it on your own. And so that does require getting out there and talking.
If you've come to an agreement with someone to put the vending machine in their business or on their property, how do you structure those agreements? Is it a revenue split, profit split, maybe something else?
Don't offer unless they ask. Because you have to think about it, right? You're putting your brand new machine, or maybe it's used, but you're putting your machine in there that you spent your money on, and you're putting it in their business. So it's supposed to be a convenience. Like, you're offering them a convenience. Like, hey, this machine is here for your employees, your customers, with a variety of snacks and drinks at a good price. It's not overstocked or whatever, or overpriced, and it's free. You don't have to do anything. I'll keep it up. I'll keep it maintained. So typically you want to kind of approach them to see that I'm giving you something, for free. I'm providing a service. However, a lot of times they will say, hey, but what's in it for me? What do I get out of the cut? Or what about my electricity or something like that? That is completely normal. And in vending, we typically will say, all right, well, we can give you, 10% of the profits each month. And a lot of times they'll go for that, depending on where it is. Like, they may ask for a little bit more. And it depends. Hey, if it's a really good location, it's a lot of people there, then maybe you can go up a little bit more, maybe 15%. And I always tell people to just tweak your price a little bit to kind of compensate for you having to share some of your profits. And then other places like a mall, they usually charge a rental fee rather than a percentage. And that really varies depending on where you go. I've seen as low as $200 or up to $500 a month to have your machine inside of a mall. So that's pretty much how that goes as far as getting a location and then profit sharing.
In real estate, one of the oldest adages in the business is location, location, location. Sounds like it might be the same thing with vending machines. Would you say so?
Absolutely. That is the heart of the business. If your machine is not in the right location, it's a waste of time. Because the idea is that you want people to use the machine, right? To buy the snacks, to buy the drinks. But if you're putting it in a business where there's not enough foot traffic, then you just got product that's sitting there and potentially can, go bad. So it has to be in the right location. And depending also on what you're selling, it needs to be appropriate to that audience as well. For example, like a beauty machine. Okay, who's going to use this beauty machine? We need to put that in the appropriate place. Maybe a hair salon, maybe a nail salon, possibly a mall, because, that's where you're going to get the most foot traffic. but you probably wouldn't put a beauty supply machine at a doctor's office. That doesn't make any sense. So, it has to be appropriate, the location, and it has to be a lot of foot traffic.
I really like how you said it has to be the right, not even just the right location, it has to be the right product for that location. And that reminds me of real estate, because you can have an amazing property, like a property that would perform extremely well. So take that as a product in the vending machine business. It could perform very well, but if you put it in the wrong location, if you put the right property in the wrong location, it's not going to do well. If you take the right product and put it in the wrong location, it's not going to do well either. So there's a big similarity there with real estate.
Really huge. And another thing, Robert, too, the product, even with snacks and drinks. And that's something I had to learn as well. Like, living in Miami, our demographics is mostly Hispanic, right? So when I first started, I didn't realize like, hey, you have to kind of adapt to your demographics, to the individuals that are going to be utilizing this machine, making sure you're putting the right thing in. And so, yeah, absolutely. Right product, right place, right demographics, location. It's all the same.
I'll probably continue to relate this vending machine business to real estate throughout the entire episode, because it really reminds me of rental properties, or, you said you could even flip vending machines, so it could be flip properties as well. But with real estate, you often have many avenues that you can go with a property if plan A doesn't work out. Is it the same with vending machines? What if we can't find anywhere to put the machine, or we realize we put the right products in the wrong place once we've bought it? Is there different avenues that we can do to get out of a bad situation?
There is. And this can be good and bad, right? Because, you got people out there and they're in business and, they're there to make money and make deals. So another thing that people do is they will get a vending machine and put it in a location and sell it like that and charge. Let's say I put one machine and I have it inside this auto shop, right? And they'll list it maybe on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or OfferUp and say, hey, I'm charging $3,000 for this machine. It's already on location. And people will pay that because they're like, hey, I don't have to go and look for the location. It's there already. So oftentimes people will sell locations, right? But you have to be careful with that because you don't quite know what the machine is making, because vending it's a cash business. Of course, people use the credit card readers, but it's a cash business also. So you don't really know what that machine is doing only by what they say. So you could be buying into something that's really not as great as it seemed. But that's one thing that people do. Hey, they get out of bad situations, or they'll say, hey, man, I paid $500 for this machine. It's still sitting in my garage. I can't find a spot for it. I'm going to go ahead and sell this for $800. That happens often too. So that's how you can kind of, get out of a bad situation and kind of get your hands off of the machine or the location, honestly, and sell it.
Yeah, it's really interesting you mentioned not being able to verify how much income that vending machine's actually making, because we often run into that with rental properties. So I'm bringing this back to real estate again, because you'll go to buy a property, and sometimes if you're buying from a mom and pop investor who's not necessarily running it like a business, maybe they collect cash for rent. That's what they do. They collect rent and cash. You're not going to really have great records of that. They could really make whatever records they want. Whereas if they use a software to collect rent electronically, you have records of everything that way, just like if you're using credit cards to buy product from the vending machine. So it's really interesting. There's the same dynamic in real estate as there is in the vending machines.
Yeah, it is. And I always tell people, when I get on a call with them, I'm like, hey, sometimes you got to think about it. If it sounds too good to be true, maybe it is. So you got to be careful with buying vending machines already on location. My recommendation is buy your machine and go find your own location and, just tough out the hard work of finding a location. But yeah, certainly that's how, we kind of get out of maybe a bad situation and trying to flip it to a better as a seller.
How do vending machine operators compete with the people or companies that have the newer, higher tech vending machines? Do they have different target customers so they're not really competing, or are they going head to head?
So here's the thing. When you're starting off, a single person and you're an average person with a regular old job and you're not, backed by investors and you don't have all this money for the latest technology because it can get expensive. I always tell people to start with local businesses, like your mom and pop business. Go to your local barbershops. Go to your local auto shops. Go to private schools. Because if you try to compete with the county schools, then you got to go through a bidding process and you can't compete with them. And so that's how you kind of, stay in your lane until you kind of grow up. And sometimes it's interesting. People sometimes acquire locations because let's say they go to a school and they see that this school has a vending machine, but the vending machine is it's old. Sometimes people will say, hey, are you happy with your service? Because I have brand new machines and, it's ADA compliant. It has credit card reader. We can do all of these things. And a lot of people lose locations that way too, by not being up with the latest machines and such. And so in that case, you can get the machines with technology. There's ways you can get a brand new machine and finance it. There's people that do that. I don't really recommend that just off the top, unless you have like this awesome location that is really going to perform, because you don't want to get stuck with a bill. But back to the question at hand, how do we compete? We kind of compete by staying in our lane. So you're going to start off with, going to local businesses and trying to get into those. You're not just going to jump up and go straight to, Walmart. And that's typically how that goes. And that's how you can kind of get your feet in and break in the industry.
I'm sure the answer to my next question is, or can vary wildly based on the products you choose, the location, etc. But in general, what types of returns are you able to get from vending machines, both in a dollar amount and as a percentage?
Let's take a combination machine, right, for snacks and drinks. And a combination machine is where you have snacks at the top and then drinks at the bottom. And that's very common for individuals to get those machines because it's having 2-in-1, and most locations want those anyways because of space. So something like that would hold up to, let's say, 217 snacks, right? 217 items and like 137 drinks. So I actually have someone that, and this is pretty cool. This is a really good example of a great location. She has that same machine that I'm talking about. It's a brand new one. And she spent about $312 in product. And that's on, chips, sodas, juice and water, just basic stuff, chocolate. And she made about $465. So when you kind of do the math there, that's a profit of $153. So that's like 49%, ROI. But she did that in 2 days. That is amazing. She filled up the machine on a Monday. By a Wednesday, it was empty and she needed to restock. And that is a perfect example of being patient and scouting the right location. So this location is actually, it's a school, has about 90 kids and about 29 staff, but it's a Christian school. So they go to school during the week and they also have church service on the weekends. And so it's a good location because the machine is being used, not just for school, but on the weekend too for their other, activities. So it's just a perfect example of how, she wasn't there. You load the machine up. That probably took 30 minutes. You leave it, you let it work by itself. You come back and you take your money out and you made a nice little profit and you just do it again.
Is this a business model that can really be scaled while continuing to be passive? Are there managers for these types of businesses like there are property managers for rental properties?
So there are vending management companies, but the thing about that is if you're starting off small, right, and you're trying to grow, hey, I have 2 machines and I really want to, get to 5 by the end of next month. That's my goal. And then by the end of the month, by the end of the year, I want 10 machines. That's fine and dandy, but most of these companies are going to require that you at least have 20 locations. So they're essentially designed for, companies that are really, doing pretty good and they're up and running. Now, for someone who is trying to scale their business and they might not quite be there yet, it definitely can be done. However, you definitely have to put some processes and systems in place to be more efficient. That way you can, have time to scale and get to the next level. So something that a lot of vendors are bad with is really keeping track of proper inventory and just all those bookkeeping things. I would suggest someone that's trying to scale to possibly use a data software that can help them manage their machines and their inventory and their locations. So that way they can really break down all the numbers and really see what they're making and see where, hey, what products are selling the most. And they're really taking everything into account in order for them to be able to go to that next level and kind of, hey, let me add on more machines and be more efficient and make more money and just keep on growing till I get to that point to where I can hire a company to come in and manage it for me. And I just get paid and it can become completely passive. So that'll be my suggestion to someone trying to scale it to the next level.
What are some of the other biggest or most common mistakes that you see people make when they're just getting into the vending machine business?
One of them would be not really evaluating their location properly, right? Some people are so excited about, getting into business. Anybody that says yes, like, yeah, I got a location. But the thing about it is, how many people are coming in and out of that place a day? How many employees do they have? Is this a new business? Is this business already established? So not doing enough thorough research on the location, because it's really pointless if you put a machine somewhere where, there's not a lot of foot traffic, because at the end of the day, you're just wasting your time. So not really properly evaluating their location prior to placing their machine. And another thing, and this is something that I'm guilty of and learning along the way as well, is buying the cheapest machine that they see on the market. Sometimes cheaper is not better. Sometimes it's good to buy a good quality machine from a company because, in the long haul, you'll have repairs and, things that's going to come back and be a bother. And another thing that a lot of people don't know is that if the vending machine is way too old, it won't be compatible to support a credit card reader. And you really need one of those to really get to that next level and scale and make more money. And sometimes the seller won't tell you that. And you might think like, oh my God, I got a great deal, $500 machine. It looks good, but it can't support a credit card reader because it's too old. So that's another thing. Just, not properly assessing their machines, not properly assessing the locations.
I'm going to relate this to real estate again, because you talk about how people make the mistake of just trying to buy the cheapest vending machine. And people do that in real estate too. They often say, well, I know I want to be invested in real estate. I don't have a ton of money, but I want to get started. So I'm going to go buy the cheapest property that I could find. And in the real estate world, what that leads to is maybe it's a bad property. Maybe there are things that the inspection doesn't catch and you need a new roof, or you need foundation issues that don't pop up in the inspection, or there's just something wrong with the property that is overlooked. That could be probably a best case scenario. Usually what happens is it's in a horrible location. You have a very bad tenant base and it's just an absolute nightmare property. That's typically what happens. And, same thing with vending machines. It sounds like
it's a headache in the long run. Like you think you're winning up front, when in reality, it's like, man, you know what? I should have took my time. I should have did a little bit more thorough research. And sometimes it's okay to invest a little bit more to get better return on the back end. So absolutely.
Exactly. On paper, they look great. When you run the numbers on these cheap properties, they look amazing because you're assuming that everything goes perfectly. And if that's the case, then sure, it's going to be a fantastic property. You're going to have huge returns. But the problem is it's probably not going to go exactly to plan, and you won't actually get those return numbers. So what seems to be an amazing deal ends up not being so.
Wow, it's so amazing how vending machines really relate closely to real estate. I never really thought about that, but it's quite interesting.
Who do you think this type of business is good for, and who might it not be so good for?
I would say, as I said in the beginning, right? This business is designed for someone who wants to kind of, create some extra money, but don't have quite the time possibly to go get another job. So you can essentially spend 1 or 2 hours a week handling a pair of machines and, making some good extra money a month, maybe like $800-900 a month, off of a pair of machines. And you spent maybe 6 hours for the whole month, as far as keeping the machine up. So someone who works a 9 to 5, that'll be ideal for them. Someone who's already entrepreneur. I deal with a lot of people that already have successful businesses. They're just looking for other ways to kind of, diversify their investments, and they come to vending. So someone who has other things going on, someone who already has a job, maybe even a parent. A lot of parents come to me and they say, hey, I want to have my kids start from a young age to kind of learn financial responsibility and such. And it's pretty awesome because I also try to connect it and say, hey, you guys can also use this as a family bonding tool. Like you use your one day and say, hey, this is our day that we're going to be going to do this as a family. So pretty much anybody who has, limited time, but they want to kind of make some extra money, but it might not be quite good for someone who may not have the ability to lift things, or, maybe they're up in age a little bit. And the reason why is because it can be a little bit demanding, because you have to think about somebody has to go shopping for this stuff. And even though a lot of people shop online and get things delivered home, you still got to go and take it and pick it up and take it to the location, unless you hire someone out. So someone who's not, maybe physically fit, they probably wouldn't be good for this. And possibly someone who you have to be able to commit some time. It's not 100% passive. So if you're looking for something that's completely hands off, then this won't be the thing for you. You do need to spend at least, 2 hours minimum a week to kind of maintain it. It's not a lot, but, it's still some involvement. So it's not 100% passive. So someone that's looking for a super passive business model, it's not quite it.
I really like that family component, because I have a 2.5-year-old son. He'll be 3 soon. And of course, I'm super passionate about business, real estate, investing, all of that. So I want to teach him, as he gets older. And I planned on doing that with real estate. Probably when he's a little bit older, I'll buy him a property that he can understand and we can do it together. He'll help me with all the tenants and the numbers and, everything. And he'll learn that way. But maybe I could do it on a much smaller scale with just a vending machine.
Yeah. And well, with kids, have kids that have their own candy machines, You get their candy machines with the Skittles, and, one of those machines make like $50 a month. Some people even do that full time instead of vending machines. They just get a bunch of those and they have them everywhere, and they get into all sorts of things, even the toys with the teddy bears. And, that's a sector of vending as well. It's very lucrative, and most people, they want to win and they just keep putting the dollars in. So that's another avenue that people go into. So that's a really something good to consider, like, hey, get them a candy machine and teach them a thing or two.
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah. Lakinya, thanks so much for coming on the show today and talking about this interesting business model and, I'd argue alternative way to invest in real estate, almost, in a way. I've had a good time learning about it, and I really hadn't considered it before. So thank you for coming on and teaching me and the audience all about it. Where can everyone listening go to learn more about you and what you're working on?
First of all, thank you guys for having me. And if you want to learn a little bit more, just follow along the journey and just look at the daily tips. My social platform that I'm most active on is Instagram. So it's iKrave Vending. So iKrave Vending, VENDING. You can go there to catch me, or iKraveVending.com, which is the website. If you inquire on there, I will get back with you. I usually answer those within 24 hours. If you just want to watch, the different tips I throw out there every day, it's pretty cool. The different types of vending that you possibly get into, or if you just want to, follow along the journey, iKrave Vending on Instagram is where you can find me.
I'll be sure to put a link to those resources in the show notes below for anyone interested. Lakinya, thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, guys. That's all I had for this week's episode of Real Estate Investing. I'll see you again next week.
Thank you for listening to TIP. Make sure to subscribe to We Study Billionaires by the Investors Podcast Network. Every Wednesday, we teach you about Bitcoin, and every Saturday, we study billionaires and the financial markets. To access our show notes, transcripts, or courses, go to theinvestorspodcast.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any decision, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by the Investors Podcast Network. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next podcast episode and new investing resources. What are your takeaways and thoughts about this discussion? Let us know in the comments section below.